Yeah, I think I've joined. I'm trying to share now. I'll got this call now, sir. Huh? Okay.
Dear participants, good afternoon. Professor Amarjit Naik from Niger has joined us. He will be handling this session, handling emotions and decision making. Are you there? I'm not getting any response from anyone.
Yes, we can see the PPT.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So over to you, Professor Amarjit. You may begin with your session. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Mishra. Okay, I believe, and good afternoon to all the participants. I hope you remember that we met day for yesterday when we discussed, on, decision making at workplace as well as at home, right? And I believe you have got the slides, the PowerPoints that I had shared with Professor Mishra. You have got that for the previous session, the session on decision making at home and at work. Anyone?
Sir.
You have got it. Okay. And I believe you may have also received the slides for today's session, handling emotions in decision making. Professor Mishra, you have, if I'm not mistaken, you have shared that.
Generally, I send all the PPTs at the end of the day because
Okay, fine, perfectly fine.
You have been kind enough to send the PPT yesterday, but other experts they send it at the neck of the moment. So after the session, we are able to.
Perfectly fine, sir. Absolutely no problem. Just wanted to know, because if they had got it, then I would do it slightly differently. No problem, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, so when we talk about handling emotions in decision making, if you remember day for yesterday when we talked about taking decisions at workplace and at home, we talked about handling emotions, but very briefly.
What?
I had said, yeah. Anyone? Yeah, we had talked about handling emotions in decision making. If you remember when I talked about decision making at home, I said that we talked about rational process of decision making as a rational process. There I said that I mean, if you remember, I believe you remember, you won't forget in 2 days. I said that when it comes to working, it comes to taking decisions at home, sometimes I mean you are slightly less rational. Does not mean that you will be absolutely irrational, but it will be the rationality would be little less compared to how you take decision as at a workplace, right? Having said that, even at workplace also, you are dealing with so many different emotions. It's not just rationality that guides your decision making. That is why, even though I said that it is at home, unlike at workplace, where emotions guide your decisions more, and rationality takes a slightly back seat. But you must understand that even at workplace also, emotions do play a role, because we are human beings. We are people, we are individuals with emotions. So we cannot be expected to take decisions like robots. We are sentient beings. We have our consciousness. I said that decision making is a rational process. It's a conscious process. You have to use your cognitive, power. All of that is perfectly fine. The fact is, what makes us sentient, what makes us conscious, is also our emotions, the way we feel, not just the way we think. Okay. So because emotions are involved, emotions are what makes us what we are to a large extent. Okay. So that is why it is important, it's extremely important to handle emotions in decision making as well. Okay, not just at home or in personal matters, but also in workplace, in matters of administration, academics, office space, etc. Okay, that is how let's begin our discussion today. And like I said in the previous session when I talked about decision making at work and at home, please feel free to intervene, interject at any point of time, right? I believe you can see the slides. I believe you can see the slides, and we are talking about decision, handling emotions at in decision making. So let me talk about the fact that decision making. Can you see the slides, by the way? I changed the slide to the next one. Can you see that?
I think there is some patch over the slide, so some of the part is not visible properly.
Okay. Let me just that maybe that participant list is just above that. So let me just a second. Give me 5 seconds. Is it visible now?
Fine, sir.
You can see the entire slide, right? I mean, all the words, etc.
Yes,
Or that patch is still there.
yes, sir. Can see. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So there are three to begin with. Like I said, decision making will not be proper, correct until and unless we try to get a handle on our emotions. Okay. There are different ways in which different theorists, different experts have talked about. So we'll discuss some of those. We cannot discuss all the aspects, and then we'll see which ones we can apply. Just like the last time we talked about various concepts. This time also we'll talk about some of the concepts, and then it is for us as individuals to decide which ones to use, which ones not to use, or which ones we are capable of using, or which ones we are not. We are different human beings. We deal with things differently, but we should be conscious of the way in which we are dealing with different things. Okay. So decision making involves many components that allow a person to evaluate their choices and come to the most optimal and beneficial decision. Right. So that is in fact in the that session I talked a lot about the decision making as a process, as a rational process, how we deal with certain problems, how to identify problems, how to find alternatives. So don't forget what we have discussed, and I believe in different other sessions also several other things have been talked about. So keep all those things in mind. Okay. So decision making, when we make it involves many components, and we have talked about some of those, many of those in fact. And those components allow a person, an individual, to evaluate our choices. What are the different choices that we have? Okay, and then we decide which of those choices or which of those alternatives is the most optimal. Will give the maximum benefit, maybe to me as an individual, to my family, or to my a group in the office space, or to my institution. Okay, my organization. Okay, so that's what decision making is all about. And decisions are made after detailed consideration of what is required, as well as the logical aspect and emotional factors involved. Now, there are two aspects to it. Okay, so we consider, ideally, this is the ideal scenario. This is what we should strive for. Spur of the moment decisions sometimes are required. I have told you previously, how especially those who have time constraint and face similar problems for a long time, they have the experience, enough requisite experience to be able to take decisions without considering various things, because they kind of are aware of those situations. Okay. However, if we are confronted with problems which are unique, which are new, that is when we take the decision which is called, if you would just like to know, I told about two different kinds of decisions, right? There are different, there is one kind of decision which is very mechanical, which does not require your cognitive process to be fully at 100%, and there is another kind of decision where you need to be at your 100% focus, attention. Do you remember these two kinds of decisions? I've told you in that session. Does anyone remember? There are two kinds of decision makings. Certain occasions, certain problems which we face on a regular basis, the recurring problems, and because they are recurring problems, they are repetitive, so we know how to deal with those.
So you are talking about programmed and non-programmed?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. That's what I was talking about, the programmed and non-programmed, kind of decision making. Okay. So what we are discussing here is mostly non-programmed decision making, because programmed decision making is something that would not require your, cognitive faculty to be, fully, there, out there. Okay. You don't have to use it fully, but for non-programmed decision making, you need to be completely, at attention, your cognitive process, your, rational, decision making process has to be fully at you have to be completely ready. You have to be completely at attention to be able to take those decisions. Okay, so that is why I'm saying that we're talking about emotions. I will come to emotions. So when you take decisions after detailed consideration, okay. So what is the detailed consideration? You have to take into account two aspects: the logical aspect and the emotional factors within yourselves. Logical aspect is perfectly fine. That's the rational part of it, and that is a common notion that you have to be logical, you have to be rational, etc. But what about the emotional factors? That is something that is usually ignored. And that is a big mistake that people do. Okay, if you ignore the emotional aspect, because it is impossible to ignore. It's impossible to ignore. It is invariably going to guide your decision in some way or the other. You analyze it. You have to ensure that those emotions don't let you take decisions you would eventually or will not be either for the most decisions affect not just you but others in the family or in the workplace. Okay, so we will be focusing on today. Okay, the emotional factors, and then this process is conscious and controllable. What is next?
Sir, can't hear. There is no message in the WhatsApp group.
Everyone is quiet. Even Meenakshi sir is also quiet.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello. I think
Yeah, hello. What we will do? Should we wait?
Yeah, I think we should wait.
I mean, but it is not I mean, no one is responding. I mean, even I cannot find Mishra sir.
No,
Yeah,
no.
there.
The problem is from COE Bhubaneswar only.
Oh, okay.
They will sort it out.
Dear participants, because of some network issue, Professor Amarjit has been logged out. He is rejoining. Just bear with us. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think network is also checking our emotional decision making capacity.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Network and technical barriers do test a lot. Okay, and to take a decision instantly, it becomes really difficult. So Amarjit sir called me just now to say that somehow has been disconnected. That is one of the biggest barriers in online classes, but we have to cope up with it. These are difficult times, testing times. So please bear with us.
Is there any instruction they send on WhatsApp group? Hello? They are sending any instruction on the WhatsApp group or no? Actually, I am
Yeah,
not.
dear participants, Professor Amit has been able to join. He will be just.
Okay. Can you see me? I mean,
No, I'm not able to see you, but your voice is clearly audible.
Yes,
okay. So I think I can continue. I mean, if you can see the slide, can you see the slides? No.
No, we are not able to. It is not visible, sir. Light is not.
No.
Okay.
Can you see
Just
now?
now, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Wait,
coming. It's coming.
Come,
Yes, it's
just
visible.
come.
It's visible.
Yeah, that is okay then. I mean, if you cannot see me, but you
Yeah,
can see
yeah.
the slide, that's all right.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, now it's visible, sir. No.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamarji sir.
Thank
Carry
you.
on.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So yeah. So okay, let me continue without the video. I mean, that's all right. I mean, I think if my voice is properly audible and you can see the slides, I think that is perfectly fine. Let us continue. So what I was discussing so far was, I mean, okay, let me just, kind of tell you whatever I discussed so far in just 1 minute, so that then we can continue, so that there is continuity. So till now I was discussing about the fact that when we take decisions and we say that it's a rational process, whether it is at home or workplace, there are times, when emotions, kind of become a dominant factor. That is what, we should not we should ensure that does not happen, because invariably emotions will play a role. And the more we talk only about the rational process involved in decision making, the more we, kind of ignore, the more we ignore, the emotional aspect of it. Okay, somebody was asking me to, make it full screen. Is it full screen now? Can you see the? Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So that, because I said that, I mean, decision making involves a lot of things. We go through the logical process, but there is an emotional aspect of it, and it is a logical process or the rational process that usually gets, kind of precedence over the emotional aspect of it. What we are doing today is we are trying to explore how we can, ensure that emotions don't unnecessarily weigh down on our decisions to the extent that the decisions become erroneous, the decisions become wrong, inappropriate for us as individuals and as a group, for the group, whether it is at home or workplace. Okay. And then when we talk about emotions, I said that, I mean, in the English language, emotion is not a word that was there from the time immemorial or from the beginning of the language. It was there since, it was taken from French, the word emotion, and then for last few centuries, it has been there in the English lexicon. And then when we talk about emotions, we talk about different mental states. When we talk about it as a state of feeling, and then we talk about the affective aspect of consciousness. When you say the affective aspect of consciousness, the fact that, there is this consciousness within us. So we, it gets expressed. It gets, expressed, or it, the outward, aspect of it, the way it becomes visible is through emotions. Okay. And then a conscious mental reaction, whether it is anger, fear, some of the basic emotions, they're subjectively experienced as a strong feeling, and that usually is directed toward a specific object and typically accompanied by physiological and behavioral changes in the body. And this is something that to some extent, to either to a large extent or to lesser extent, is true for almost every individual, every human being. Okay. We all, that not a single person can say that, we have not experienced, or I have not experienced, these, emotions, emotions such as anger, fear, etc. And usually these are targeted or, towards either, a specific object or, somebody, some individual or a group, and it is accompanied by not just, behavioral changes, but also physiological changes, physical changes. Okay. So emotions are extremely important, and sometimes, those become so dominant that our decision making, becomes erroneous because the rational process kind of takes a backseat. So what then should we do? Should we completely try to, suppress emotions? That is one of the ways in which we need to do it. But I will talk about not just suppression, but various other ways in which we could deal with such a thing, because if we completely ignore this, it's not going to disappear. If you don't acknowledge it, does not mean that doesn't exist. Okay, so emotions do exist, because we are all human beings. We are not robots. We cannot simply be just rational human beings. We can be rational human beings, but it will be largely impacted also by the emotional aspect within us. Okay, so then what are the roles of emotions? The emotions loom large in shaping social life, and often emotions are shaped by culture, social contexts, and interpersonal interactions. Now we have talked about in groups, when we talk about certain things, when we try to take some decisions within a group, the group may be heterogeneous, and the more heterogeneous the group is, the more is the challenge in coming up with a decision. But I have told you earlier also that the heterogeneity of a group does not necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, because then you come across different aspects of it. So sometimes your emotions are shaped by your culture, your social contexts, and interpersonal interactions. Because perceptions of reality are different for different individuals. Okay, the way we perceive things, and how do we perceive things? We don't perceive things only through our thinking. We do it through our feeling. In other words, it's not just a rational process, it's also an emotional process as well. Okay, so emotions are considered as quite functional, because people work to spark emotional responses to accomplish their goals in various settings. Now this is something very common, very commonplace. Many of you, probably all of us, we have encountered this at some point or the other. If you want to achieve something, you feel, you imagine, not you as an individual, and a human being, who is in a group, who is in a setting where one feels that if I behave in this particular manner, if I show these emotions, the work will get done. That could be sometimes strictness in the way, the way you say, with anger, with humility. Sometimes you try to bring in emotions of like you're telling with a lot of passion, sometimes compassion. So different kinds of emotional things. So you try to draw those emotional responses to accomplish your goals. Sometimes you feel that if somebody is not, this is something. Suppose I'm just giving one example. Suppose you want to influence a particular group. Okay, you want to influence a particular group about what they need to do. Okay, what they need to do to you want to tell them that this is something that you need to do. So you use a rational process. You use the rational process, and you try to justify to them that this is something that needs to be done. Okay, so what then happens is they are not convinced. Okay, they are not convinced by your rational justification. So then you try to tell the same thing, not through a rational process, but in a manner which will draw not a rational response from them, but an emotional response from them. So that then you can achieve your or accomplish your goal. Is that understood? I mean, do you understand what I'm talking about? Can you think of some example? Sometimes when you feel that you cannot achieve that kind of goal through rational, through eliciting a rational response from somebody. You do that by doing that through emotional response. You get what I'm saying? Does anyone understand what I'm talking about
Yes,
here?
yes.
The functional aspect. Can somebody give me an example? I mean, some example of how this happens? Because I tell you, almost every one of us, has used it at some point. So,
Sir, like asking for leave from the school
yes.
when we fail to justify that I have this much leave, then we try to convince emotionally that
Yes.
I'm really sick.
Yeah.
And
No. That's an example. That's an example. See, that's a good example. The other example that you can think of is like sometimes you want to, let's say you want to talk about let's talk about a serious social issue. Let's say you want to talk about feticide or infanticide. You want to talk to some people. You want to talk to villagers. You tell them, you give them statistics. This many people. This many children are killed when they are children because they are girls. Because they are not boys. So people will look at the statistics and they may not be influenced. But then you show them, some anecdotal experience. that okay, I mean, you keep the experience of, I mean, a particular woman who gave birth to these many girl children and what happened to those children, and you listen, you prepare a video of that particular, woman. You don't give statistics, but you emotionally appeal to people. Maybe you will, elicit a kind of response from them that will help them, that will make them understand the seriousness of the matter. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Sometimes emotions do play a very significant role, in in achieving one's goals in a positive manner. Okay. Okay. Now, individuals also work to activate emotions in others as well. For instance, to encourage them to buy products, to join a cause or a social movement. That is what, I mean, I just gave the example of. Okay. Fine. Okay. Can you see the video? I mean, am I visible? I mean, not
No,
yet.
sir.
Okay.
Video is
Just just a second. Let me just. I think it showed that the video is on. Just to give me 10 seconds. Okay. Is the video on now?
No, sir, you are visible, not the video.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm visible, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, not the video. I don't want to see any video, but I'm visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, just a second. Okay. So, okay. So, what are the roles of emotions? That's what I was talking about. That emotions, sometimes play a very important role, probably more important role than the rationality or the rational aspect of it. Okay. So we just kept, I think one of our participants, I think Koeli ma'am, gave an example, and I just gave another example. So we also, too, as individuals, deliberately work to activate our own emotions to manage and overcome crisis. Okay. How do we do it? We imagine our future feelings of regret if they fail to persevere, or focusing on the good feelings and community respect that we can derive from engaging in them. Okay. Basically, what it means is, I mean, as individuals, okay, we also need to activate our own emotions, okay, especially at the time of crisis, or if you want to manage something. Okay, so we decided, okay, I mean, if I mean, if in the future, if I do certain things, there may be regrets. So what are we doing? We are kind of preempting the kind of emotions that one may feel, and then focus on what are the positive aspects that may be there. Okay, that is how we ensure that we are in a good emotional state. Okay. And in tight-knit social group settings, collective efforts to elicit particular emotions from one's peers and perform the emotions expected by them can serve to foster and deepen group solidarity. Okay, so in tight-knit social group settings, I mean, whether it is a place where everybody kind of is dependent on one another, and also wants each other want to prosper. So in that kind of setting, there are collective efforts, I mean, to elicit particular emotions from one's peers. So as I mean, we collectively we work towards achieving a good emotional kind of state from others, and we perform the emotions expected by them, and that can serve to foster and deepen group solidarity. So what it basically means is, if you want to take a decision, also keep into account, especially if it's a tight-knit group, and you want, in fact, an organization is also supposed to be a tight-knit group. So there you have to also collectively take a call, which will help, which will help the emotional well-being of the entire group. Okay. However, more generally, it is through routine interpersonal interactions, because collectively it doesn't happen always, but interpersonal, interactions where emotions of all kinds are amplified or diminished. So small inklings of emotions can rapidly escalate when fueled by responses from interactional partners. But there is a flip side to that also. The same dynamics can allow especially intense, burning emotions. Okay. And that can also be relatively cold, so that is why this is something that we'll also discuss. If there is an emotional state that you feel you are in, and you want to kind of come out of it, or you feel that this may take some time to cool down. So what are the strategies that you should adopt to ensure that these emotions are cooled down and you are not taking a decision at the spur of the moment? There are 3 or 4 things that I will discuss later to manage such very practical situations. Okay. And that can be, and it's not necessary always to actually have real interpersonal communication. It is important, but sometimes you can have imagined interactions with others also. You can imagine, I know these people. If I so you imagine, okay, this is what will happen. These are the kind of emotional impacts that will also happen, that this decision will have on them. So that also is important, because you cannot individually meet every single person. If all the people who are going to be impacted by your decision, you cannot meet all of them. So interpersonal interaction with all of them will not be possible, but you can imagine the kind of impact that it may have. Okay, so that also will guide your decisions, and that's it. That should guide your decisions as well. Anything you would like to ask? Anything anybody would like to ask? No questions. So now we'll go to the next step, which is emotions and decision making. Okay, I told you earlier that decision making is a rational process. Okay, while saying that, I have also said that in the rational process, the slightly irrational part of, or little part or big part that emotions play, that also have to be factored in. And emotions constitute powerful, pervasive, something that is found everywhere. Emotions constitute powerful, pervasive, and predictable drivers of decision making. Okay, it affects the judgment and decision making process, or progress, and leads to meaningful decisions in life. Okay, because if we completely sideline emotions, that's not, we are not, it's not going to be a it's not going to be a decision which will eventually or in the long run be helpful to everyone, because the decisions should not be taken only from a mercenary, from only a pragmatic point of view, that just benefit, cost, that kind of analysis. It should also be taking into account the emotional well-being of people who are involved in your decision making process, not necessarily in the process of decision making, but the impact that it is going to have on those people as well. Okay, then it will be a meaningful, okay, through which everyday attempts, avoiding different kinds of. So if you see, the emotions, how do they get expressed? This is, I told you earlier that sometimes you try to use your all the power that you have sometimes to elicit an emotional response from others. Emotions, sometimes the emotions will be actually expressed through the decisions that you make. So decisions become the conduit, and through which your emotions guide the everyday attempts at avoiding negative feelings such as guilt, fear, regret, and increase positive feelings, happiness, love, pride, etc. Even when we lack awareness of these processes. This basically means that sometimes we do not feel that we are factoring in emotions, but the fact is, in our decisions, those emotions somehow trickle down or get amplified to the other person. They understand that because this person has taken this decision, so this is what this person must have thought or felt about us. For example, if in a managerial setup, you take a decision to increase, let's say, the pay of, your, employees at a lower, level. So they don't just look at the rational part of it, that, there is inflation, so that's why this decision was taken. They also feel that, there is empathy for us from people at the higher levels. There is empathy for us. So empathy is an emotion, right? So that's what I'm talking about, okay? And once the outcomes of our decisions materialize, we often feel emotions, okay? Regret is definitely one of them, but to avoid regret, we have to ensure that, we factor in all kinds of things, not just the rational process of it, but also emotional aspects, okay? And there can be other kinds of emotions like elation, surprise, regret, okay? So what it basically means is, even though your decisions, which it should not be, but suppose it is a completely rational process and the emotions have not been factored in at all, but at the end of the day, when you see the result of your decisions, how the decisions actually have materialized. So you feel certain emotions. Those emotions could be happiness, surprise, and unfortunately sometimes also regret. Okay. So which basically means, from all discussions so far, one thing that comes out very clearly is that emotion and decision making, they go hand in hand. Okay. Okay. Emotion and decision making go hand in hand. Without, factoring in emotions, whether it is within you or for the others, or the impact of it, the emotional impact of the decision on the people around you or on yourself. Okay. So that is definitely, a big role that emotions play. So emotion and decision making go hand in hand. Okay. Is that clear? I would like, before I move on to the next slide, I would like to, know how, some feedback on the discussion so far. Anyone? What do you think? I mean, what is the general feeling like when people think of decision making, like taking a particular decision? We have learned so much. I'm sure, not just from my sessions, from other sessions. The rational aspect of it, is something that has been discussed a lot, I believe. What about the role of emotions? What do you think? Not just from the discussion so far, but as individuals, as some of you may be in administrative positions. Many of you are, in academics, all of us probably are. What do you think?
Sir, I guess in most of the cases, emotions are there, but
Yes.
there are certain routine decisions we need not. There are no emotions in those routine decisions.
Those are programmed decision making, right? So let's ignore programmed decision making. Let's think of only non-programmed decision making. So there, yeah.
Mostly emotions are involved, but not in all cases.
Okay. But is that a good thing? I mean, that's what I would like to know. Like,
Sir, when we are taking the decision and taking emotions as a part of it, we are justified. And when others are taking decisions and we feel that key emotions are playing a part on that decision, we feel bad.
Okay. Again, we are assuming that that emotional aspect is something that kind of overrode above other considerations, right? That is when we feel that others have taken a wrong decision. But what if we feel that they have also considered the emotional impact that is going to have on us? So is that not a good thing?
Actually, sir, now going through this discussion, yeah,
Yes.
I understand the emotions plays a role.
Yes.
So
And
I have to accept that.
Okay. So the point that I am trying to thank you for, for what you said. The thing is when it comes to that is why I said from the beginning itself, the moment we can think of decision making, the moment we think of it as a process, we always think of it as a rational process. We always think of it as a rational process, right? That it is a but the thing is, it's a conscious process, a rational process, but we are all human beings and everybody has emotions. So until and unless we acknowledge that aspect, our decision making is not going to be a proper decision. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so that because emotions is a largely understudied or undervalued aspect of decision making, but it's an extremely crucial aspect of it. That is what is the attempt in this session to to understand that emotions do play a major role. We cannot avoid it. So if we cannot avoid it, let's see how we can make the most out of it. As I mean, like how do we then channelize it? Those of you who are teaching communication to students, those who are English faculty here, see, you would understand, I mean, we talk about a concept called grapevine, right? Anybody familiar with that term, grapevine? Grapevine is basically rumors, etc., right? Gossip in an organization. I mean, the management, if a management becomes very strict, that at workplace there cannot be any gossip, any kind of what do you say, Rumor mongering, no gossip. People should not talk unnecessarily. Is that going to be good? Because if you think that okay, grapevine is bad, rumors, gossips, etc., are not necessarily productive things, you tell them to stop. Is that going to be good? It's not going to be good because you cannot stop people from gossiping. So you have to channelize it, right? Sometimes channelize as in let them do that, and then sometimes use it productively also, because that will increase the productivity of the people. If they don't gossip, if they become completely like 9 to 5 kind of jobs where they have to work, it's not going to work, right? So the number of hours, the quantity would be more, but the quality would be less. So you have to let people be people. So that is what also I am trying to say. Let people be people, because if you tell somebody that when you are taking a decision, forget all the emotions, that's not going to work. Sometimes you have to control those emotions, but you are an emotional human entity. Human beings are emotional individuals, so we cannot completely we have to acknowledge that those emotions will eventually play a role. So why not acknowledge it rather than not acknowledge it and say okay, emotions did not play a role, but play it in a manner that is productive, play it in a manner which is something that something that plays a role. So channelize it, just like we talk about channelizing grapevine. Okay, now integral emotions affecting decision making. Again, we'll talk about integral emotions and incidental emotions. Like last time, so with both the sessions, there are certain key terms that I would like to use that are in use. So you should know those terms and understand those terms and also remember those terms. Okay. So integral emotions is one. The other one that I will talk about is incidental emotions. Okay. So integral emotions, it's a type of emotion that strongly and routinely shapes decision making. Okay. These are not emotions that will come and go. So a person who feels anxious about the potential outcome of a risky choice may choose a safer option rather than a potentially more lucrative option. Okay. These are the kind of emotions that affect decision making. In a way that that will have a long-term kind of impact. Look at the first example that I talked about. That suppose I'm a person, I have this feeling that okay, if I have two kinds of choices, that is a risky choice, and but if I take the risky choice, there is a possibility that it will be it will be very productive. But it can also lead to disaster. There are slightly risky, but there is a possibility that I will gain a lot, but but it is not certain. The other one is a safer option, where the positives are not those many positives, but then the cons are also not that many. Okay, so basically, and then I would what kind of if I'm a person who feels that okay, I'd be satisfied with this much, but I cannot afford to take that much risk, so I'll choose that kind of option. Okay, because otherwise I will feel always anxious. I will take the decision, but I will always feel anxious. You understand what I'm saying? So why should I go through that kind of emotional state? Why should I go through that kind of emotional state? Okay, so to avoid that, I have to ensure that you understand. So in decision making, you have to know yourself. This is something that I want to tell you. You have to know yourself that as a person, I am somebody who becomes anxious if there is a lot of uncertainty involved. Okay, I would rather go for certain things which may not be very lucrative, may not be that much beneficial, but at least the possibility of a downfall is not that much. Okay, the cons don't outweigh the possible pros by a long distance. Then I will go for that kind of safer option. Okay, but sometimes but then also you see there are certain emotions like anger. There are I'm not talking about anger as somebody tells something and I become angry. Not that kind of emotional state. Suppose there is an injustice that you see all the time around yourself, and you feel that I must you feel angry about it. Okay, that injustice could be social injustice, injustice within family, injustice somewhere. You feel strongly about it. Okay, then that anger, that emotional state. Anger is what? Anger is an emotional state. So that anger becomes an motivation for you. that anger against that injustice provides a motivation to respond to injustice. Okay. However, in the earlier example that I gave, you feel that, if I take that risky option, there's a possibility of regret. So anticipation of that regret, preempting that emotional state that you will have, possibly you will have, that will, ensure that you avoid that kind of excessive risk taking. Okay. So you see, in decision making, how emotions play a role or should play a role, right? They should play a role. Okay. Because otherwise, if you, don't factor in these emotions, your own emotional state also will be, you will not be in a healthy emotional state, right? So despite arising from the judgment or decision at hand, integral emotions can also degrade decision making. So the two examples that I gave, they are positive examples, both avoiding risky decisions to avoid future anxiety or future regret, and emotions such as anger against some sort of injustice helps you more determined, more motivated to take a good appropriate decision to fight that injustice. Positive things, right? But integral emotions can also degrade decision making. For example, the example that I have given is something that has been given by others also. So one may feel afraid to fly and decide to drive instead. Suppose I am afraid of flying, going by an aeroplane. I will say, okay, I'm afraid of flying, so I will drive. But if you logically look at it, that's an emotion, right? I'm afraid. Being afraid, fear is an emotion. So, but if you look at the base rates for death by driving compared to the base rates by death, in flying, base rates for death by driving is much higher for an equivalent mileage. All of you know that, right? So actually, traveling by air is the safest form of transport, right? So, but the thing is, you are kind of guided by emotional things like fear. Okay, it's a small innocent kind of example, but there are times when you would see that emotions, such integral emotions, the constant emotions, it's not like I'm afraid of flying today and yesterday I was not afraid. It's not like that. It's constant emotion. That's why they are called integral emotions. Okay, so once integral emotions attach themselves to decision targets, they become difficult to detach, because these are kind of permanent kind of emotions that you have towards something. Okay, permanent. Okay, or long-term emotions. Okay, these are not instantaneous emotions. Okay, so they become difficult to detach, because invariably, if you are emotionally like this, then you will take these kind of decisions. Okay, so acknowledge that and see whether those decisions are actually impacting the organization in a wrong way, in a non-productive way. Then don't use that. Okay, so try to change at least to some extent. Okay, but is that change possible? What do you think? Is that an easy change to achieve? Anyone? You understand what I'm talking about?
It is possible.
It is possible, especially, but it is difficult because these are, we're talking about integral emotions. The emotions that make you, in the sense that, the way you are is largely driven by, those kind of emotions. Okay. So it is very difficult to detach those sort of emotions from decision making. But at least what I'm saying is you acknowledge those things, that you acknowledge those, emotions and say that, okay, this is the kind of person I am. I'm like this emotionally. So, then, then you decide that whether, that is, because your decisions are largely influenced by those integral emotions, is it actually degrading the quality of your decisions for yourself or for the institute, for the organization? Then try to make some changes, at least for that time, when you are taking the decision, ensure that, you are not, you are not guided fully by those, overriding emotions. Okay, it's difficult. Okay, so that's why, but you have to understand what are the integral emotions that make you as an individual. Okay, the next one is incidental emotions. So these emotions, pervasively carry over from one situation to the next, affecting decisions that should, from a normal perspective, be unrelated to that emotion. Okay, this is like, so earlier the emotions that I said, those directly kind of, impact your decision making. Okay, but whereas, in incidental, emotions, These are like carryover, think of something like carryover incidental emotion. So you are angry on something, okay? You are angry on somebody, and then you have to take decision on something where somebody else is involved. Okay, your anger on that other person or for some other thing carries over to the other person to whom for whom you are taking this decision. You understand what I'm saying? And that's something that you must avoid. Incidental integral emotions, like I said, they are difficult to kind of detach. Okay, but you should try if you feel that those are the emotions, even though those emotions make you the kind of person that you are, still if you consciously think about it and feel that those are the emotions, overriding emotions that are kind of making you take decisions which are not really great, not really the appropriate decisions, then try to change. But in this case, incidental emotions, especially when they become carryover of incidental emotion, that is where you must ensure that that doesn't happen. Okay, like I said, incidental anger triggered in one situation automatically elicits a motive to blame individuals in another situation, even though the targets of such anger have nothing to do with the source of the anger. You get what I'm saying? That also happens. Suppose at home you are angry with suppose there is a fight with some other family member. Sometimes you may take it on your child. Sometimes you behave rudely with a child or some other member. At workplace, you are angry because of something else. Okay, maybe your boss, somebody who is higher up in the hierarchy tells you something. You take that anger on a subordinate or a student. You understand what I'm saying? Unfortunately, these things also happen. But what I'm saying is, these are incidental emotions. Incidental emotions. So the carryover effect of these incidental emotions is something that you should acknowledge, understand, and try your level best to ensure that they don't happen. Okay, and also sometimes we have in different moods. If you are in good mood, we make optimistic judgments. That's not always a nice thing, by the way. Optimism is a good thing, but if you're in a good mood, you take certain decisions, and later you realize that it's not a realistic kind of thing. Okay, so whether it is extreme, you have to avoid extreme mood swings. If you're in extreme, extremely happy, you take very much optimistic decisions. That's not something that's good. If you're in a really bad mood, you take extremely pessimistic judgments. That's also not good. That's why you don't take decisions when you are too happy or too sad. Okay, so see for yourself that I'm too happy right now. I'll take some decisions. No, that's not the right time. Take your time. If you're too sad, too angry, whatever, some sort of extreme emotion, don't take decisions then. Okay. Now there is this study by two separate papers, Hasliffer and Sumway 2003 and Kamstra et al. By 2003. This is what they say. Based on the assumption that people are happier on sunny days, economists found a positive correlation between the amount of sunshine given on a given day 26 countries. Okay, it's a 2003 study. So the in 26 countries, I don't think that means there's too much heat. It's a hot country. Okay, so probably the stock market performance will not be that good because people's mood will not be very good if it's too hot. 40 plus degrees Celsius, right? You get what I'm saying? The point is our good moods, bad moods, all those things. That influence our decisions. As individuals, let's ensure that if we are in either of those extreme state in terms of moods, let's avoid those things. Okay, fine. Then coming towards the end of our discussions, in the next 10 minutes we'll try to conclude. Yeah, some queries. Is there a query? Okay, fine. So emotions serve coordination role, automatically triggering a set of related responses, whether it's physiology or bodily aspect, behavior, experience, and communication that enable the individual to quickly deal with problems or opportunities. Okay, because emotions don't just stay emotions. They impact. They impact you physically. You see when somebody is extremely angry, it shows in the body also. One becomes red. Once blood flow increases. So those, and one becomes sad. Goes into some sort of depression. those are, kind of things that, I mean, those are the kind of responses that are triggered, through emotions. But then sometimes, I mean, those emotions, become a trigger for you to quickly deal with problems or opportunities. Because if you are, in that extreme mental state, sadness, anger, you try to take decisions quickly. What I would suggest is, this is not always a good thing. Did somebody want to ask something? I saw a raised hand, maybe. Was there a question, a query? Okay, fine. The next thing that, emotions have motivational properties that depend on both an emotion's intensity and its qualitative character. That is, specific emotions carry specific action tendencies or implicit goals that signal the most adaptive response. For example, anger, aggression, and fear triggers flight. You run away from things, away from taking a bold decision. Okay, so those are also, some of the things that one needs to acknowledge. See, from the discussion so far, the one point that I would like you to focus on, don't forget the central argument of what we are discussing. Emotions we need to avoid. The integral emotions are ones that make us what we are. It's very difficult to detach, but sometimes they help you. If you're a person who is things, it is better. That I have given, you don't want to fly, you want to drive. That's all right, even though that probably is not logical. Still, that doesn't impact others. But if those integral emotions impact others, then ensure that you make some changes in that. Okay, at least at the time of decision making. Okay, if it's the incidental kind of emotions, ensure that I mean there is no carryover impact. Where effect where your emotions towards somebody, kind of triggers you to take decisions which are not very good. And impacts adversely on has adverse impacts on other people. Okay, then emotions predispose individuals to appraise the environment in specific ways towards similar functional ends. So emotions sometimes, I mean, if I have certain emotions, I try to think. Appraise means what? Just the quality of something, just the property, the quality of something. Because of my emotional state, mostly integral emotions, I judge certain things in certain ways. Okay, so emotions, these are ways in which we see that emotions are extremely significant. So emotions also influence the depth of information processing related to decision making. If emotions serve an adaptive role by signaling when a situation demands additional attention, the negative mood should signal threat and thus increase vigilant systematic processing. And positive mood should signal a safe and lead to processing. It's better about you try to as much possible try to positive emotions. Theory that is good, in practice also that is good. Okay, so theory, it's easy, difficult to implement, but what is the other option that we have? Either way we are, if you are too negative, then we have to try to bring in some positivity within us. And happiness involves appraisals of high certainty and sadness of low certainty. Okay, we talked about how certain positive emotions impact our decisions, but however, at the same time, I would say extreme, extreme, emotions, even so-called positive emotions, that's not the time to take decisions. Emotions, shape. There's a typography error here. Emotions shape decision via goal activation. Okay, emotions trigger a set of responses. Physiology, behavior, experience, communication, etc. That enables individuals to deal quickly with encountered problems or opportunities. Okay, for example, anger is often associated with the desire to change the situation. I told you, you see, especially if that anger is coming from an integral kind of thing, and move against another person or obstacle by fighting, harming, or conquering it. Okay, anger is associated with neural activation characteristics of approach motivation, and sometimes with changes in peripheral physiology that might prepare one to fight, such as increased blood flow to the hands. Okay, so I mean, what it basically means is, there are scientific reasons, the way our, the physiology changes, not just, the mental state, the physiology changes that happen when we go through certain strong emotional states. Okay, and the behavioral effects depend only on the perceived relevance of an emotion to a current goal, regardless of whether the emotion is integral or incidental to the decision at hand. Okay, the behavioral effects, depend on the perceived relevance of an emotion to a current goal. Okay, what we perceive as, the relevance of that emotion to the goal that we have, the current goal that we have. Whether that emotion is integral or incidental doesn't matter. I've talked about integral and incidental emotions. So whether that is an emotion that coming at the spur of the moment, that means it's an incidental emotion, or it is something that defines the way you are as an individual. Okay, so those things also play a major role in. Okay, now coming to emotions in affecting interpersonal decision making. In interpersonal things, I told, especially we're working in groups, we're all social beings, whether it's at home or at workplace, we work in groups. So emotions are inherently social. So people derive happiness merely from opportunities to help and give to others with no expectation of concrete gains, right? If we, most of us, if we can do something for others that makes other people happy, we feel happy. So that basically means what? That emotions guide certain, positive, kind of decision making. These are positive emotions, and emotions also help optimally navigate social decisions. Okay, if you have positive emotions, if you have, about others, you have some positive, disposition. You know that they're good. You ultimately, create a kind of environment where there is good social relationships. So emotions guide more than the rational thing. That what is the benefit that I will derive from helping my colleague. Rather than that, you feel that okay, emotionally, you emotionally feel good about it by helping a colleague, creating a positive atmosphere. So emotions do play a role, positive emotions. Okay, and emotions may serve at least 3 functions in interpersonal decision making. They help individuals understand one another's emotions, beliefs, and intentions. These are self-evident. Okay, they incentivize or impose a cost on others' behavior. That if you behave like this, these are the kind of emotions that you will get from me. If you do this, then I will not be happy. If you do this, we are all happy. And they work complementary, reciprocal, or shared emotions in others. That's perfect, right? If as a group we help one another, we create a positive, kind of work environment. Everybody is happy. Same way at home also. Okay, so though interpersonal emotions can influence others' behavior by communicating information about an emoter's, that is, individual's intentions, they can also change decisions and behavior as a function of the corresponding or complementary emotional states they evoke in others. For example, anger can elicit fear when communicated by those high in power. Okay, or also a desire for retaliation. See, people, again, people who are higher up, they take some decisions and they're angry on you. So there are 2 options for you, 2 emotional responses that you can have. You can either become very afraid of them. Fear is an emotion. The other one is a sense of retaliation. I will also show you later when I get an opportunity. Those sort of emotions. The point is, from small examples, big examples, at workplace, at home, wherever you can think of, please understand that emotions do play a major role. So don't undermine its importance, but try to see how you can, kind of channelize it properly. That's why this slide is very important. You can minimize the magnitude of the emotional response through these 3 things. Okay, I told you extreme emotional response is a negative. To minimize the magnitude of the emotional response, you can delay sometimes, take some time. Even people tell you, right? When we tell it, somebody is angry, somebody who is in a very agitated state, we tell that person, please calm down, take some time, don't take any decision, don't say anything, don't do anything, just take some time. Time delay, that's one major way in which you avoid taking a wrong decision, because once you say something rude out of that anger, that's it, that's the end of it, right? So reappraisal, think about it again, whether reappraisal, reevaluate, if what I'm going to do in this mental state, is that going to be a good thing? Reevaluate, delay, don't take some decision instantaneously, reevaluate, and sometimes suppress. Okay, suppress it. Don't show it, keep it within you, because after some time you will realize, okay, good that I did not say anything. Or try to induce a counteracting emotional state. If you're angry, try to calm down. Try to bring in that state. Maybe by listening to some motivational kind of thing, or some sort of peaceful soothing music. There are many ways of doing it. This is a very important strategy that should work for every individual. Okay, this is something that I would like also. All of you know this, but these are 3 ways in which you could minimize not completely eliminate the magnitude of the emotional response, because that kind of extreme emotional response will ensure that you are taking a wrong decision. So I have told you, I have already given you examples, time delay, suppression of emotions, and reappraisal. Okay. So because if you are too angry, then so you have to minimize emotional magnitude is to let time pass before making a decision. Okay. Suppression of emotions often counterproductive because it intensifies the very emotional state one had hoped to regulate. If you're angry, you say something, you still become angry, remain angry, and you think that, okay, why did I say that? That makes you more angry. Reappraisal is basically ensure that understand why am I angry, why am I sad. Then then you will see that, okay, it's not about others, it's probably about me. Maybe I should work differently, but don't give an emotional response. Okay. But suppression is not as good as, let's say, reappraisal, because sometimes if you suppress your emotions, just think about that keeping that anger, extreme anger within you, it may also be counterproductive. It may not be good for your mental state. So instead of that, take your time, don't think about it, don't suppress it, don't think about it, but reevaluate it. Try to think it. Okay, maybe this is just a test for me. This is how I'm being tested. I'll let me cool down, let me calm down. Okay. It will take away the negative feelings later, and then you will be able to take a good decision. Okay. So these are the things that I want to discuss today regarding how to handle emotions in decision making. If there are queries, I can take up from now. I hope this session as well as the previous session was useful to you. You will have the slides with you, so you can go through those at any point of time. And I hope that not just in theory but in practice, some of these things, whether it is how to handle emotions or how to take proper decisions, go through a proper process for taking appropriate decisions, correct decisions, good decisions at home and at work, workspace. I hope these two sessions have been useful for you. At least that's my hope. Okay, so I'll stop here. If there are queries, I can take up if there is time. Professor Mishra, if there are queries, is there some time for that? Is there a query I can take?
We can take up 3-4 questions without any issue, sir.
Okay, sir. Let's see if there are queries.
I think almost all the participants are hungry.
Okay, fine then. Absolutely, I understand. It's already, I think already 1:20 or something. Yeah.
No, yesterday we continued till 1:45.
Oh.
So it should not be an issue.
Okay. No problem. I'm fine with it. Either way, I'm fine. If there are no questions, that's no problem.
Participant, do you have any questions, queries? Please ask Professor Nayak. This is the last session with Professor Nayak for this FDP. Professor Nayak has been a very good friend and motivator for me.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, madam. Yes, Bhagyashree madam, you're audible. You may ask your question.
Yes. Actually, thank you very much, sir. I'm listening your session, and the very good advice you have given that you have to stay, means kuch mat bolo. If your emotions are not in a control, or don't take decision, because this is a best advice for me that I get from your session. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. That's an advice I give to myself also. It's not just for you. That's for all of us.
Sometimes we can't control our anger. This is the main issue.
I know.
So
if it is
that
at home,
reminds us that no, we have to time low. Decision में time low.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
This is a very commonsensical thing, but sometimes this needs to be. We need to be reminded of this thing, because sometimes very common things also need to be reminded to us. We need to remind ourselves that this is something that I need to practice. At home, we may sometimes get away with it because our family members, they're close to us, they may understand. But at workplace, this actually may create, kind of rift between you and another, colleague. It may disrupt the work environment for a long time. So we have to be extra careful. But like I said, suppression of emotions is important, but taking time is important. Suppression of emotions is not, always a nice thing. What you need to do is to take your time, but also try to do the reappraisal, try to reevaluate, why these things are happening to me, or why am I so angry, why am I so agitated, how I should keep my cool. So try to channelize it. Maybe listen to some soothing music, do whatever works for you, other than remain angry for a long time. Okay? So these are the things that you need to do. Okay. Is there any other query?
Thank you, sir. I have also I have a lot to take away from your session. Considering
Thank you.
suppression of emotions is
Yes.
indeed sometimes difficult and challenging when you have to do it with your team work
Yes.
that you're working with. Nevertheless, I would speak at an appropriate time because I need to get it out. You understand?
I understand. Yeah. So yeah, see, that's why I said, there are three things that I said, time delay, suppression of emotions, and reappraisal. Out of these three, delay, take some time, before you give a response. Don't immediately give a response. That is definitely a good thing. Reappraisal is again a very good thing, that where you reevaluate, why am I angry, or why am I sad, why is this thing agitating me? So try to reevaluate. That's also good. That will give you different perspectives, because sometimes you're angry because you look at it from one perspective. If you look at it from other perspectives, you will realize that, okay, probably that's not the best thing to do. Suppression is not as good as the other two, because sometimes, like you said, if you don't let it out, it may actually be counterproductive. It may have very adverse impacts on you, your body, physiological issues also, as well as mental issues. So it will, it will have, it will be counterproductive. But you need to let it out, but don't let it out immediately. Okay. At home, maybe you can get away with it, but at workplace, if you do something out of that kind of thing, that kind of extreme emotional kind of state, people were not going to, most likely people are not going to give you the benefit of doubt. You will disrupt the work environment. There will be a rift, for a long-term rift between you and your colleague. So suppression of emotions is not the right thing, but how to get it out? Not get it out in a manner that will disrupt, your future. Understand? So you have to find some ways of, letting it out in some ways, where the relationships, the workplace environment, family environment does not get disrupted. That's what I would say. Yes, reappraisal is definitely better. Yes. Anyone else? Okay, Professor Mishra, I don't think there are further questions.
Thank you, Professor Naik, for your valuable input into this difficult session, handling emotions, because we all understand that handling emotions, whatever may be the training, whatever may be our understanding, knowledge, it's very difficult to control and handle emotions. So particularly while taking a decision, handling emotions has a crucial role in each and everybody's life. May it be personal life, may it be professional life. So
Yes.
your inputs are definitely going to help us. I also learned a lot of things from this session. I am sure the participants must have been able to grasp it and understand it and apply it further in their life. Thank you very much for two enriching sessions, and I'm really grateful to you for your continuous support and help whenever I seek for. So hope to see you again in some other platform. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I'll sign off now.
Please.
Okay. Thank you.